So, welcome to Vision Profiles vodcast. This is a mashup with our friends at MacVoices and In Touch with iOS in a sense, too. We've got David here as part of In Touch with iOS and Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, who's with us tonight. I'm Marty, a faculty member, podcaster, and an avid Apple product fan.
I'm Eric Bolden. I work in IT, but my interest is in finding interesting ways to share content. Currently, photography of plants, birds, and panoramic sequences.
And I'm Daniel Burkholder, a software engineer and technologist currently engrossed in generative AI and AR and VR technologies.
I'm Chuck Joyner, the host of MacVoices. I describe myself as Vision Pro curious.
I am Dave Ginsberg, and I work in IT, but I'm also the host of In Touch with iOS podcast, and I am a recent owner of Vision Pro.
And Brian?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. I'm an educator with an interest in technology, as well as focus in economics and financial literacy, and definitely interested in the Vision Pro.
So we've got 4 Vision Pro users and 4 Pro Curious users, I guess. Brian, have you done a demo of it? I can't remember.
I have actually. A couple of demos of them. Yeah.
Okay. And Chuck, you've done a demo, and
I've done the demo, and then you shared some time in your Vision Pro at MacStock, which gave me a little bit more of the experience.
Yeah. So this show, because we've got kind of a hybrid, instead of covering news of the week necessarily, and it's been kind of slow with news with Vision Pro, what we're going to do is just kind of take some topical questions and see what people's responses are and ideas are around it. And so the first area about initial impressions and user experience for those folks who are non-owners, sort of what were your initial impressions and what intrigued you most about the device, even though you maybe haven't had a lot of time with it? And for those that are pro users and owners of it, what were your initial impressions? And then sort of where do you stand with it now in terms of the device? So anybody can start.
I don't mind starting. When I did the demo, it was kind of staggering. I mean, just how great it was. Now, we all know demos can look really good, but the quality of the demo just blew me away. You can say what you want about everything, but my girlfriend was with me. She took the demo. She too was blown away by it, by the quality of the video, the true immersive part of the experience. And it made me want one, and I still want one. But I am struggling. I don't mind telling you that the reason I'm still hesitating is I want to make sure that it's something that can fit into my productivity workflow on a consistent, regular, easy basis. And now some of the things that have been released since the demo and the experience you shared with me, Marty, I want to go back and do another demo at the Apple Store, and let's see if they're going to show me some of those things, because maybe they will punch my particular buttons.
Again, anybody?
Yeah, I guess I can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, can we go? All right. I was on the fence getting it for a while and trying to decide, do I want to get this or do I want to not get this? I mean, it looks really cool. I did do the demo. I was very blown away by it. It's a quite an amazing device. The immersiveness of it was amazing. I remember that we were Vision OS 1.x, and so it wasn't all the full blown added features we have now with 2.3, but it compelled me enough to like it enough that I talked the wife into saying, "Hey, I'm interested in this, but I understand we can't afford it." But then she surprised me and decided, "Okay, let's get it." So I'm pretty happy with it. I'll make a mention before I go on to that. As I was at the Apple Store today because I had to get an iPhone fix for my mother-in-law, and I see. I just wanted, and I noticed that the demo now they're letting multiple people be in the same demo at the same time. So there was 4 people sitting at a table, and the leader was going through all of that stuff on 4 Vision Pros. So I think if I could get into a demo like that, that would be even more of a cool thing to see how it is to see how they're how they're doing the demos. So, but as far as the productivity of what I've seen so far, with what the device does for me, no question is the Mac Virtual Display. Now with the advent of 2.3 and having the ultra wide display, that just blew me away. Being able to have that immersiveness, it's probably immersiveness more enough that I'm seeing. I'm looking at a 32, 34 inch curved monitor, which is to us normally a small thing, but it's pretty big. So you got to adjust it a little bit to get used to that, because I'm going left and right in my head and going to trying to see where the screen is. But at first, it took me a little time of getting used to using the your hand to get the menu to come up so you can pinch and get it into that mode. So now I'm a pro at it. I'm just hoping and looking to see more and more apps. I want to see some more apps out there. I know the developers are very reluctant. You're probably talking about another topic with that, but but there's some great apps. The immersive videos were just absolutely amazing, blew me away. And there was one just came out recently. I can't wait for the next one. So, but as far as productivity goes, I hope to see even more if I can get messaging working in Apple Vision Pro would be great, and it's better than the way it is now, and other productivity tools. I'm all for it. So, but I'm happy with the purchase so far.
You mentioned the demos that they're doing in the store now. They used to do a demo where they kind of had to talk you through it.
Right.
Now they have everything connected to an iPad, so they can do 3 or 4 people and check in where they are and help them if they get stuck. And I saw some people saying, Apple released that software so we can do this, with we can do it at home. Other impressions, initial iPhone. What?
I can't remember that when we got the first iPhone, we wanted to be able to hook our iPhones up to show it on the screen. Yeah. Got to do it for this.
Brian, I think you had a comment.
Yeah. So for me, there's some similar qualities that both Chuck and David brought up, and also a couple that are a little different for me. For me, I look at it as a 3-pronged approach. I have got an opportunity to demo the Vision Pro at the Apple Store. I did that back in late February, I believe, and then over at MacStock in July. And incredible experience. And the first thing to really think about and to take away is that immersive nature of it, because there's so many products out there that we hear about. We can hear people talk about, we can read about it, we can watch videos on it, and we kind of get a gist of what it is and what its capabilities are. But for something like the Vision Pro, it truly isn't something that you can really fully understand until you put it on your own head and you look through and you get that immersive full experience. And so, like others, I was completely blown away with what its capabilities were in the demo software, and seeing the immersive videos and pictures that you could really just you were feeling like you were just back in that memory again. But for me, looking at the aspect of like what Chuck was saying about whether or not I can adequately connect it into my productivity. For me right now, I know that from the productivity side and work related, it's not going to be an option, because it's a hard wall between my Mac products and my Apple products, and those that I use for as a professional. And I know that the Vision Pro right now is not part of that. The second prong, though, was thinking about how I may be able to perhaps utilize Vision Pro / AR VR experiences in the educational environment. And that may be something coming down the pipeline here in the next year. And then the third prong I was thinking of, and how I would probably immediately use it, might be in the entertainment aspect, especially watching videos. However, when I think about integrating that as part of my day-to-day routines, most of what I watch is shared with my wife, and I will both watch something together. Probably about 80% of what we watch is at the same time. And so right now that specifically is one of the big reasons why with the larger price tag. And I listen to every episode of this show, and I know that every article that is on the Vision Pro is, oh yeah, did you know that it's $3,500? But knowing that, obviously is an inhibitive factor as well.
Thanks, Brian. Daniel, Eric, anything to add?
I'm just trying to think here.
Yeah, it's that deep thinking, which is why we have you as a regular panelist on the show.
I went into the Vision Pro with no expectation, and I felt like that was the move. All I really wanted out of it was good display on face, and that was, I would say, somewhat of a low bar. And then I let it grow on me in terms of like, I didn't want to go into it thinking I'm looking to do a thing. I wanted to see what I could do and mold my workflow around it, and not wait for different things and try to see different, just try different things out and use it in different ways that maybe people weren't thinking of. Like just the other day, I mentioned in another episode where I was taking some of my CAD models for my car parts and mocking them up on the car. Cool as hell. So I don't know. I'm still excited for it. I think in the past couple of weeks, because of some technical issues that I've had, which I seem to have bad luck with my Vision Pros right now. I'll be honest, it's kind of turned me off a little bit, but as we see more software updates come out, I know that I'm going to be more and more into it. And actually, tomorrow I get my Surreal Touch controllers. So now I'm going to finally be able to start doing some VR gaming for the first time. So actually looking forward to that. And I had actually no expectations of doing gaming on it at all. And now it's just a nice bonus. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, David kind of sucker punched me into getting a pair of hand controllers to try out. So I got notice that mine is coming too. What I'm going to do with them, I have no idea. Eric, any addition to the ideas of what your expectations were, and then how is it now?
For me, when I got it, I was interested in being able to see panoramic images displayed as if I was in the spot where I originally took the picture. I also really enjoyed the old ViewMaster discs or whatever, and so being able to get something kind of like that, being able to see a location, see a museum, see something that I wasn't close to, is if I was there, or is if I was there in multiple seasons. And then being able to watch 3D movies without getting a headache. And all of those things I was able to do. I too didn't really want to pay the full amount, so I went in with two other people and split the cost of the headset. And then Apple came out with the virtual display. The virtual display meant that I had the most glorious Mac display ever. And I had been using my iPad a lot, and using it both as an iPad or as a second display next to a laptop. I find I'm using the iPad a little less now, but definitely using the virtual display a whole lot, and really enjoying that for remoting into work machines, and just having plenty of screen real estate for whatever I'm working on. It's made life much, much, much easier. So,
yeah,
Eric, Eric, listening to you talk about the virtual display and having you sent me a screenshot that was extremely compelling. I'm not sure if that had not been available when I did the first demo, that I would not be an owner at this point, because that's been something that has really been the first thing that has sorely tempted me into becoming a Vision Pro owner.
I think it would only take about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Thanks, Eric.
they do that on the demos. Which, if they're not doing it at the demos yet, that's a big
No, they
miss
don't.
because it's
They don't.
huge.
They
I
should
mean,
be. It is huge.
when I had to go and leave for the hurricane, I'm like, oh, this is sick. This is amazing. I mean, I have my full workstation, set up, but on the go.
And you still have a good view of your keyboard and your mouse. You aren't affected, so you got good feeling and you can see it. And if you're looking at it, I'm one who looks at the keyboard. I could easily see it and you stay productive.
So I'm going to shift a little bit to a second section and the idea of how those of us who have it want to talk about media consumption and how you're using it for media consumption. And then for those who don't have it, maybe ideas that you have about how you would like to use it for productivity. And you can blue sky that. It doesn't have to be something that's already there necessarily, but ways in which you could use it for productivity if it was possible. I like Daniel went in with no expectations. I knew it was going to be an expensive product. I saved money for a year to be able to get it with the anticipation that I wanted in on it. I had had some experience with a Meta 2, and I think the Meta 3 came out. Daniel, you might know this. The Meta 3 came out before Apple Vision Pro came out because I picked up one of those headsets and then was kind of trying to compare it to what I'd get with Vision Pro. And maybe somebody will correct me in the chat room about when that was, when Meta 3 was released.
It was October 10th, 2023 is when it released.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I had it for a while actually. So I was a little concerned that it might not live up to the price tag, but was not disappointed with the capabilities from a computing standpoint and from the potential of a productivity standpoint. But yeah, I put on apps that I could use, and I could use them in other environments and on other platforms. But it was kind of cool to do it on the headset, but quickly slipped into media consumption and absolutely nothing like that. There's no experience like media consumption on it. And so I'm curious about Daniel and David and Eric, your experience as a media consumer, if you do consume media on it.
A majority of my media consumption is YouTube. So not really anything special in the Vision Pro around YouTube, except fighting with different apps getting taken down from the App Store because of various nebulous reasons, but that's a whole other topic. Though I will say, I have never been to an IMAX or seen a 3D movie before. So essentially, I feel like I have both of those in my headset, and I watched my first 3D movies in it, which was really cool. I'm actually excited for it now, and I will, if it's something that I don't want to watch with my partner or something, I will reach for it if it's available in 3D. So I guess that's a way it's changed. It's introduced me to 3D movies in a way that I've just never felt like going out and doing. In terms of, well, I already mentioned the Surreal Touch controller, so I'm looking forward to that. I haven't done VR gaming really either, except a buddy brings his whatever over and we're fooling around for an hour and he leaves. But in other gaming, I've been using it just as a big honking screen. I played through Elden Ring in it. It was really fun. It's the best screen I have in the house right now until I buy a really nice OLED TV later this year. But I guess overall, it's introduced me to different mediums that I hadn't yet seen before. And with these immersive videos, these are different than a 3D movie. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, how they're different. Maybe because they're actually shot with the depth and intention in mind, whereas maybe a 3D movie isn't as much because they're also still trying to film it for 2D as well. So they have to kind of have a compromise there. So I do hope that I will see more 3D content that I'll want to enjoy, whether it's like movies, 3D, or immersive. Which before
I just recall when you said your first 3D movie. My first 3D movie that I saw was using the headset on a plane, and I watched Ready Player One. So there are lots of layers. There are lots of layers in that. It was actually pretty cool to watch that, to be on a plane and to have it in 3D. David or Eric, any comments about media consumption?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of movies. I mean, unfortunately, like what Daniel just said with YouTube. YouTube is it's unfortunate you have to watch it in the browser. And they keep taking down apps that could be with it. I wish Google would get their act together and get that going. I'm also a YouTube TV subscriber. Yeah, you can watch the content, but if you go full screen, it freezes. I mean, the audio keeps going, but it freezes because it just isn't able to keep up with what the Vision Pro can do. So that's an unfortunate thing. But I have been able to enjoy things on Disney Plus, on Max, and Tubi I've used a little bit, Pluto TV, Paramount Plus. So there's a lot of content already out there that I have enjoyed. I even dabbled in looking at music a little bit using Apple Music and was listening. It is kind of weird with where the earphones are. They go in your ears from the band on the Vision Pro. When you cover up your ears, you get like a wow crazy range. You're almost better. You're pretty much better off using your AirPods Pro to get the best results for sound. And then, of course, all the immersive videos that Apple's been releasing so far, we're just, again, like I said before, we're just amazing. So I think as a consumption device, I think it'd be pretty amazing. I'm still waiting to have some productivity. Unfortunately, I have to work in Microsoft Teams. Sorry, Chuck. I want to. I want to try to experience that at some point, but the way security works in the enterprise, having to use Microsoft Authenticator, they haven't had that working just yet, and it's impossible to look at your phone and try to get it to authenticate. So, but I'm hoping that that could be something soon that we can check. I mean, if you use Zoom has an app. You can have a conference on there, which is pretty cool. I haven't done that yet, but of course you can't have your face if you want to have it on screen. You have to use your persona. So, which I'm not a huge fan of, but there's tons of productivity out there. Even Microsoft Office has got things that you can do with spreadsheets and Word documents and that stuff. So, but yeah, that's what I find.
Eric, anything on media consumption? You're really much more into the spatial photography, and
I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did some experimenting with taking some video and some panoramic pictures from server rooms, so that later on, when I had to describe what machine it was that I needed something from or to or whatever it is, I could visually see the spot, see all of the machines in the rack, and then walk somebody through what I was trying to get done without actually having to go and do it myself. That was kind of interesting. I did a couple of videos of toner cartridge replacements and a couple weird printers we have, just because we only have one or two of them and they're sort of oddball. And being able to kind of see it and both describe it or have somebody else see it before they actually have to go and do the work, that was kind of cool. But I've also been doing some playing with Moon Player and watching old movies and telling it to generate 3D content. So it's not perfect, but it kind of is a different view. I haven't decided if it, is a good thing or a bad thing. It's not as bad as badly colorized old movies, but it is maybe a slightly different look than what was intended. So for a purist, maybe it's bad, but it's sort of neat to kind of see some extra depth in some scenes. So, going back and watching a bunch of old movies, that was cool. Some old like Saturday morning television, that was a lot of fun. Some of them, the resolution isn't quite high enough to get a good effect. Others, it was kind of fun watching I think I watched an ancient episode from Lassie running down a hill and finding Timmy. That was cool. And that was definitely not in 3D originally.
No.
Yeah. Although Timmy and Lassie actually were in 3D, the video of them was not in 3D. I'm going to open it up to Brian and Chuck if there are any ideas that you have. As I said, this is an opportunity for folks to kind of brainstorm what would be the productivity stuff that you would need to do in order to, that Vision Pro would need to do, that would be a clincher for you.
Do you want to hear productivity only or entertainment as well?
I'll take whatever you got to say. Just toss it up.
Okay. I'm sorry, Chuck, you were talking.
No, go right ahead, Brian.
Oh, well, definitely on the entertainment end of it, one particular aspect, and I think Meta may do it to an extent, but with the Vision Pro and the quality of the resolution and so forth, I think it would be much better and of higher quality. I enjoy sports, and the prices to professional sports is outrageous, and even in nosebleeds, sometimes you're paying 3-digit prices for a ticket. And I was just thinking, with the power of the Spatial Pro or the spatial video, and with the Vision Pro, what possibilities there are of putting cameras everywhere, where you could theoretically have courtside seats for a more reasonable price. And then obviously, the NBA, or, if it's football, or in basketball, football, baseball, whatever it might be, you could literally be there at an incredible seat and have it at a reasonable price, and have it in the comfort of your own living room, of being able to just sit there and watch it. And from the side of selling those tickets, it doesn't just have to be sold once, unlike, sold when you're actually occupying that seat, but rather being able to, sell it multiple times over, limitlessly, I suppose, could be a very lucrative opportunity. And that's one thing. If you're thinking like what possibilities there may be, that would certainly be an awesome one.
Yeah, I know Chuck and I and Eric have talked about the limitations with bandwidth, and being able to pump out 3D live stream would be pretty crazy. But even if, we can see people slide into first base because they have little cameras at first base right now. Even if they just put regular cameras, not necessarily expecting spatial photography throughout the park or throughout the arena, and just having somebody switch the cameras so you get more of a they're in their moment, instead of the flat look at the ball field for 2 hours and watching them run up and down the ball field. It'd be a little bit more exciting. Chuck, do you have some ideas around media or productivity?
Well, yeah, and part of this is almost a question based on what David just said, what Daniel said, and some of the comments that have been going on in the chat room. I know you all have said this is just like the best monitor you have in the house, and so let's say that I have that I'm using it as my Mac screen. Does that mean I can continue to run all of my Mac apps on the Mac on the screen in the Vision Pro? And the reason I ask is Patrice was in here saying that like some of the Microsoft productivity apps are not working for her right now. I have different things that I like to use, and I'm fine using them right now. That would be it would be a big boon for me if I knew that even though I might not be running Vision Pro native versions, that I wouldn't have to not use those if I'm in the Vision Pro environment. So I guess I'm asking a question. If I, God help me, if I need to be using Teams in the Vision Pro app, can I do that, or am I required to run the Vision Pro native version, which apparently is not working a lot better than it does on the Mac?
I saw Patrice's comment in the chat room, and that she was struggling to get some like Outlook to run. I'm running Outlook on my Vision Pro without a problem. I don't run Teams typically, and our work site uses Teams, and I can run that on my desktop, but I haven't tried to run it on the Vision Pro. It's problematic however whatever platform you run it on. For me, I just have trouble waiting for people to figure out what's going on wrong with it while we're waiting to do a movie or meeting rather. So yeah, I haven't had the trouble with, and I've run Excel on it. I've run other Microsoft-based apps, and they might be the quote iPad versions of them because
Yeah,
that's what
they
they
are.
ported over. They are. That's what you're saying, David.
Yeah,
So
I mean-
I'll turn it at this point. I'll turn it back over to David because he might have attempted Teams and some other of these
I have.
Microsoft-based
And
apps.
I'll echo what Patrice is saying in your chat here is the apps don't work. She's right. They're just not, they're not solid. But a good example is, you're using the Mackie Virtual Display. Of course, that's going to work if you have Teams or any Microsoft product running on your Mac. But of course, that's not the experience you're hoping. You want to have native. So that is the case. More the security piece of it. Why couldn't get Teams work? I mean, again, it's an iPad app, so they opened it up that way. But Microsoft isn't in any position right now. They want to have developers devoted time to develop it. I'm thinking so.
Well, I guess my point was that that would be a barrier for me. That if I had to take my productivity environment and be compromised, that would be a big barrier, as opposed to just being able to say, okay, even if it were just a super large virtual screen, at least I still have my productivity environment and all the necessary apps like Slack, like Discord. I'd have to look. I mean, at any given moment, I have an embarrassing number of apps open. And so that's where I would want to make sure that before I would invest in it, that it could handle that. Even if I'm not running native versions to start out, at least I wouldn't have to take a step back. I might be taking a step sideways with the intention of moving forward then by replacing Mac versions or iPad versions with the native apps, but I wouldn't lose anything by making the transition. So from the productivity standpoint, that's it. From the immersive video part for entertainment, yeah, I think it would be fantastic. Because since I live alone, I don't have the issue of having to share the experience with someone, at least on an immediate basis or on a regular basis. So I would love to have that super immersive experience, even if it's not the spatial video. Because I know, Marty, again, you showed me some stuff at MacStock that was just absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, David, I must be running the iPad version of the Microsoft apps because they're working for me off of the headset, particularly Outlook. I know this because I only use Outlook for my work mail. So if I want to look at any work mail, I have to open up Outlook. And then I use the mail app for whatever other accounts that I have for mail like that. And Gmail and other accounts go through my mail app, and both of those seem to work for me. I'm curious. I need to check, and I don't know. Maybe Daniel or Eric knows. Slack apps. Are there Slack apps available?
Slack is just the iPad app. Teams, WebEx, both of those are have native apps. Zoom has native app. Discord does not yet. Yeah, and I haven't had a problem, but I'm not part of any big Microsoft organization, like product use in our organization, so I haven't had that issue yet.
Right.
I haven't run into that. Chuck, to kind of answer your question maybe a little more directly, like the virtual display, it's just a display, so you have nothing to worry about there. Nothing's going to change as far as your setup there on your Mac goes, except that now you have big honking virtual screen, and also let's not forget that the keyboard and mouse or trackpad from the Mac will also hand off immediately to all the native apps as well. So perhaps as more native apps are coming online and you want to use those separately as a second window, like I might, instead of having Slack up on my Mac and virtual display, I'll throw the iPad app up and have a second window off to the side. So now I'm just saying
Well, So let me. This is something I should know, and I'm embarrassed to say that I don't. And I know what you just said, Daniel, makes perfect sense. So that well, I'll just ask the question: are there other native browsers for Vision Pro, or is it just Safari at this point?
Oh, it's just Safari, and Apple's stance still hasn't changed. It's even if there were, it's still going to be WebKit under the hood, or rather Safari under the hood. Just like every other iOS thing, at least everywhere except Europe.
Thank you.
Eric, you were holding up some strange device. What was it you were trying to show us?
He's crazy.
Oh, his battery with the Mac.
His battery with the Mac Mini.
Did you use
Yeah,
it to jump
so a
your car,
battery.
Eric?
Oops. Let's see how to gotta move.
Yeah, you're good.
There. So Mac Mini plugged into a battery.
And
A Milwaukee battery.
So whether I use the battery for plugging the Vision Pro or use it for powering the Mini, that lets me do the Mac virtual display if I'm not near an outlet in the middle of nowhere.
So how are you handling logging in? Do you have no password on there? Because you got to at least sign in on first boot to be able to activate virtual display.
Yeah, I've got a an iPad with a HDMI in.
Oh, okay. I was going to guess blind typing in your
basically.
password on a magic
Just long
keyboard.
enough to get the password typed in.
So you technically have another display with being the iPad.
Yeah, I think it was David who convinced me to buy this thing that's about the size of a Mac Mini that is basically a power source for the Mac Mini. It's sitting behind me on the floor. It was one of those things I picked up during the Christmas holiday sales. It wasn't supposed to come till January, and it appeared a couple of days ago, so I haven't tested it out. But it's basically a portable battery for that purpose. And I also, at the course of doing this, before they had the Mac Virtual Display, you could do these little handheld Bluetooth keyboards. So I presume that would work for Eric too, in terms of logging in using some type of Bluetooth handheld keyboard. That would work. As Daniel, I think, is onto something.
Yeah, it's a bit trial and error, but it works.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, I tried one of those little. It's a for the viewers, not viewers, for the listeners. It's a BlackBerry keyboard and a little 3D printed enclosure with a little tiny itty bitty baby screen. And I mean, I paired it to the Vision Pro. It works. And even though I had a BlackBerry growing up, I kind of remembered why this is why we don't do this anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a lot of hate now for physical keyboard purists, but I'm fine about that. I'll fight you.
Yeah, Cletus is asking in the chat room, what did everybody get for Christmas? And I don't know if there was any associated things for your Vision Pro that the owners got or not. No. Yeah, I didn't think so. Brian, do you have anything to add in terms of other types of, you talked about education and potentially using it in education. And, after you said that, I started thinking, now, how would we do this? How would you do it? So again, blue skying the ideas of what this device could be used for. Have you given it any thought in terms of how you might use a VR headset for that purpose?
Yeah, what comes to mind immediately is the opportunities that might exist, like the virtual, say your museum visits, or even just visiting areas or historical accounts, or, things that would be very difficult to recreate and or cost prohibitive to go out there and actually visit. Those are things that immediately come to mind, whether that's, it could be things having to do with like live animals, places around the world, maybe difficult places to reach. Maybe even my thought goes out even into when you're thinking about science and thinking about things that are relatively difficult to recreate or to experience, but we have a lot of data on, like maybe experiencing a hurricane from close up but not being in any real danger. Those types of things, I think, have a lot of good application in the educational fields.
I'm just going to open it up to the panel. If there are other blue skied ideas that you'd like to see the device used for. Chuck, you can play golf with it.
Well, that could be interesting. Brings a whole new meaning to keep your head steady.
I mean, the weather that you and I get in here in the Northeast is probably we could extend your golf season.
Listen, I know you're joking, but in a lot of ways it would be compelling. I mean, I'm not sure how swinging with a Vision Pro would work, but I don't know if you have. I've done golf simulators before where you have a course projected on a screen in front of you, and then you swing. The computer measures where the ball would have gone, then you zoom to that position and hit your next shot. The Vision Pro could be amazing for that. I'm not sure in its physical form factor right now. But you're right. As you said, these are blue sky things that if we start thinking about, that maybe there are a lot of different things. This just feels like still so early on, not just for the productivity, but also just the idea of what developers can do with this. You've heard me use this analogy before, but when the iPhone first came out, none of us had any idea what it would turn into, because the developers hadn't really thought about what they could do with it yet. So I'm very anxious to see what would happen, both from a recreational and from a productivity standpoint. I really want one. I just, if I have to choose between that and an M4 MacBook Pro, the M4 MacBook Pro will probably get purchased first, because I can definitely make a lot more use of that at the moment. However, Dan and Eric are not helping my case at all, because they talk about having their productivity environments completely portable with them anywhere at any time and have the full experience. And I don't know, for those of you who can't see, I mean, you said you wanted 4 screens. I've got 5, Marty, that I use on a daily basis. And so to have that to carry that around would be amazing.
I'll actually burst your bubble a little bit there. You can't do multi-virtual screens. So you got standard, ultra wide, and ultra wide. But if you're fancy enough, I'm pretty sure you can make the ultra wide get you about to the same equivalence. Or maybe there's some apps like if it's Slack, right? You could have that virtual separate screen in air quotes and just put it off to the side there.
Yeah, and I mean, Daniel, I guess if you can do it with one, it's probably just a short hop to being able to do it with multiple down the road. So, that may be something that will be implemented. Or, again, to your point, as more apps become reliably Vision Pro versions, they can move off of that main screen and live by themselves. So,
and there are some open source projects, some in test flight even, where it's not a virtual display, but rather a projection of the Mac application window. So that kind of, it's like I'm bringing the Mac app in as its own window, like it would be on my desktop monitor, if that makes any sense. I feel like I'm having a hard time illustrating that one, but it's not bound to a virtual monitor. It's free and floating like every other, and it's a projection of that application window. So that could also be another route that they could explore too. I think something like that would be best native, of course. Not to say that this was called Ensemble. You can find it on GitHub. Not to say that it didn't work. It worked, but I wouldn't want to use it unless it was more of a native implementation.
Brian, I was thinking about your comments regarding field trips. And one of the things that you can do really well is you can, and I think of this for travel, or whether it's geography classes or history classes, you can use the device, and there are apps that will allow you to basically jump around the globe to different sites and familiar sites and go through that area, even using, Google Streets and Street View, but incorporating pictures that people have taken into the device and they've placed into that app so folks can enjoy the pictures and the places that they've been at. So there's an opportunity from an educational standpoint for the virtual headset and the virtual travel trip to be done as part of an educational process with folks. Whenever I've had international teachers here, and this was before the Vision Pro and now also after the Vision Pro, they'd want to put that Meta headset on before the Vision Pro and go right into the maps and show everybody their hometown, in Kenya. Or it was kind of interesting because here they are. Where do they want to go first? They want to go home, and they want to show everybody that too. So it can kind of be educational and very kind of international in its sharing. Patrice, who's in the chat room, is a big fan of InSpace, INSPAZE. Eric, myself, Chuck, we've talked about this app before as kind of an amazing way for social gathering and meeting people under various topics. Brian, I think I'm going to try and do something in there that's sort of like every other week meeting on something, just to start kind of that educational, cross-global educational conversation with folks. So there are these opportunities that you can do with the headset and the platform. Things that you would like, things that you would like to do with it for work, or things that it doesn't do well that you would like to maybe have it do for work. I'll start. Give you guys a chance to think about it in terms of your workflow and what you do. Scheduling meetings. I use Fantastical in there. I can also use Calendar, I guess, if I want to. But Fantastical works well in that. And I would like to have a better way of, typically what we do is we don't use shared calendars and as much as we can in academia, because academics are one of those groups that likes to profess their own independence. No one's going to, run my schedule for me. And so we don't like to use those shared calendars app as much. The administrators like to use it. And when the administrators use it, it feels kind of as if they're getting in our stuff by scheduling meetings for us. Typically, it's a series of doodle polls that get us to some agreement of everybody that needs to be there or when it needs to be. Maybe not the most efficient, but it's the most, it gives each individual the most say in when a meeting can happen. I would just like to see a better functionality for meeting scheduling within that environment, whether it's an app that's Vision Pro specific that people create. Well, it couldn't be Vision Pro specific. It would have to be on multiple platforms for people who aren't on that platform. And to also be a app that would be cross operating systems. So people who are using Windows computers or Linux or on Android phones would also be able to participate in it. So for me, to add to the workflow, I'd like an efficient way of doing meeting scheduling in terms of productivity, because that's a lot of what I wind up having to do in my job.
I think for me on work stuff, it's doing its job because as a software engineer, I'm really working on a laptop most of the time, and fully accept that the Vision Pro is not going to be a developer environment. Like, I'm not going to actually compile software in it, just like you're not on an iPad. But what would help me is virtual display is great. It's good. But I personally think it's only about 80% there. I'd like it to be a little sharper. Because I find I have to, at least me, I have to either increase font size or make it bigger, and then I'm starting to move my head around a lot more, and I don't want to be moving my head a lot because that's just not good from an ergonomic perspective. And I think the only other thing, at least on work stuff, because all my other productivity stuff for the most part is there. I'm an OmniFocus user. They were there on day one. Actually, I would say that OmniFocus Vision Pro app could do some work. It's a little clunky to operate, for sure. And I think the only other thing would be for me to be able to screen share what I am seeing through the pass-through. And that's for a very specific reason. Is that what behind me is a humongous mountain of VoIP phones, office phones, and often I will do tests on them. My offshore team will set up a bunch of tests, and then I got to go and actually do the thing on the phones. And being able to talk and record with it to give to them as part of their troubleshooting would be really nice. I could do that with other things, or somehow mount my phone on my face, or get like Meta Ray-Bans or something, but I'd rather use something I'm already having, especially since I'm already on a video call with them, and I could just screen share and show them that. If you screen share as it is today, it's just going to show only rendered windows. It won't show the pass-through. So, and I know if you have enterprise API accesses, you can access the front cameras, but that's enterprise. So that's not going to be for, 90% of anybody using this.
Any other wish lists for productivity?
Well, I'm limited to what I can do at work with the Vision Pro right now because it's my own device, and with the security that's in place, I'm not going to be able to do much. I mean, I would love to be able to use the virtual display for work, but I'm going to have to stay with the 34-inch TV monitor I have at my desk at work. So, but right now, I don't have anything that really stands out. I can really tell you.
I want to ask you: is that an Apple ID restriction on your side? That is why you can't do that?
Yeah, because we can't. Because we're SSO and enterprise, so we can't sign in with our own Apple IDs.
Okay, yeah, because same thing on for me, but at least on how our MDM is set up, I had to set up the laptop with my work Apple ID, but then I just made a new user account on the same machine and use my personal, and that's the one I log into. So your mileage may vary if anyone else is in a similar situation.
Enterprises aren't going to allow that.
Yeah, and also I'm in startup land, so
Yep. I'm going to go to Brian. Brian had a question that you put in our interview chat.
Yeah, when you're talking about, I was just thinking about the features and something that I would want. It may even exist. Is SharePlay something that works between Vision Pro if you're using it and perhaps a friend or family member who doesn't have one and they're watching it on a Mac or an iPad?
I wish. Very often.
Okay, so it doesn't.
My partner might. No, yeah, my partner might be watching something on the Apple TV because I want something like that too. He might be watching something, but I want to be in Vision Pro doing whatever, but also kind of watch that on the side. Yeah, I have the pass-through. In my mind, there's no reason why I couldn't SharePlay it right in and I can get a native feed. I would want to put AirPods on so I'm not getting double sound, but that's different problem. I don't know if there's any hint that they're going to do such a thing, but as far as I'm concerned, all the building blocks are there. It's just a matter of are you guys going to do it or not?
Thanks.
And Daniel, that feels like, I mean, those comments seem to, they resonate with me, and they kind of echo what my thinking is, that there are a lot of little things that I would like to see. I think Marty's looking for maybe a big one, and I'd love to give him one. But we all sort of do the same thing. We manage information in various areas and ways. And I feel like the Vision Pro has the opportunity to let us do that in different ways and maybe more efficient ways. I'm just not smart enough to figure out what those are or how you would do it unfortunately, without resorting to a Minority Report kind of interface, or an audio interface a la Star Trek that just right now we're not quite there with.
Yeah, I don't necessarily looking for big things because everything comes in small steps. I mean, as you pointed out, the issue with the iPhone, we didn't have cut and paste for a while, and that was a little thing in today's sort of perspective, but it wound up being a big thing. The big thing that I think most Vision Pro users will agree is the Mac Virtuals display and getting better use of the hand gestures, being able to control aspects of the device. And with each upgrade in the software, you can see that they're doing things to get that. Because I think if they don't, Meta's going to run away. with it, in the sense that people are going to say, see, you really do need hand controllers to do anything in this world. So I think Apple is really trying to up their game with the sensitivity and the use of hand gestures and hand display. So not necessarily looking for the big things. I would like to see probably more AR, VR integration than what we have right now. We have some interesting games that I guess you'd call them games, or adventures that you can do that kind of cross both of those worlds. And, those I'd like to see expanded, because I think that will pull in folks who want to use this as a virtual experience and not necessarily as a computer per se. So Brian asked a question, is your Mac display still on when you're using virtual display, which adds to the privacy issues? I mean, it gives you privacy. Eric, I think, is having some sound problems from what he says. But I know Eric said that's one of the beautiful things about it, is that as soon as you turn on that virtual display, you can be sitting in a crowded office space and people will not see what's on your MacBook screen, because it's essentially enclosed around your head. And you're working with it at that point. So that's an added plus.
I did not know that. That to me is very interesting.
Daniel, you can confirm that?
Oh, certainly. It is really nice from a privacy perspective. I think, Eric, that was really something for you too, that it was really important in your line of work too, being able to have that privacy.
Yeah, I mean, with some of the material, some of the sensitive stuff that you want to do, if you're sitting on a plane and you got your laptop open, the person sitting next to you can watch it. Well, and look over at your laptop. If you're using the Mac Virtual Display with Vision Pro, they're not going to be able to see that, and they're not going to be able to work with it. I'm going to try and make a commitment to doing more spatial videos, just so I can get more comfortable in that field. I don't lead a very exciting life. It's basically this desk and downstairs in the living room, and occasionally I go to school to teach and do some things there, but trying to find subjects for spatial photography. I guess I should get out more to be able to do more spatial photography and more spatial video, just to kind of get more comfortable with that and playing it on my Vision Pro headset. Any other final, what you think you'd like to do next? If you're an owner or if you're curious what you would like to learn more about next, before we close out this episode?
I think we're good.
I think just keep talking, because every time I've listened to this show or talked with you and Eric, it seems like I learned a little something new that I just wasn't aware of with the Vision Pro as it is now. And so as it evolves, there are going to be more of those little things that aren't necessarily going to bubble up to the top, because they're going to be little and they're going to be new. And so you guys will be the first ones to hear them or experience them. So please just keep talking to us and please keep tempting me. Sooner or later, I'll crack.
We were kidding you about doing a GoFund, Chuck, for a Vision Pro. Again, any opportunity that you have, if you're around us, we're gladly put it in guest mode for you to play with it. And to get more tempted about it. We've had an active chat room tonight. Patrice Brendamore, who is really a very avid Vision Pro enthusiast and works with it and uses it a lot. She's a friend of the group through MacVoices, and also in touch with iOS and the Mac Show. I think she's on the Mac Show.
Big show.
Yeah, and so she's been active in the chat room. I would have loved to have had her in here tonight, but did not know her availability because of the time zone skip. So I'm glad she's staying with us in the chat room, and next time we set something up like this, we definitely need to have Eric on as a guest, and Daniel have her on as a guest, which I've kind of been wanting for a while, but cautious about the time zone change. She's been in there chatting with Cletus. Cletus is another Vision Pro owner. He went to MacStuck, and unlike Chuck and Dave and Brian, as soon as he was done with MacStock, he went home and purchased a Vision Pro headset. So he's
I was close. It took me a couple more months.
Yeah, it took you a couple more months. It's not a horse race. Let's just put it that way. We're happy to have you whenever you can join us. Cletus was in there and enjoying it, and we had quite a few other folks. I think Webb was in there for a while. So it's been great in the chat room watching the chat. They've been talking a lot about InSpace and when to go in and how to do things in it. So it's been fun to see that. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight here, not only in watching us live, but if you watch us at another time on our YouTube channel. But let's go around and find out where people are and where we can find you. And I will just go with my regulars first. Daniel, I guess we'll find you here. Is that right?
Pretty much. I'm not on socials at all, but I need to get on there at some point. Well, I'll let you know when I do have them.
Yeah.
Mastodon's a good place.
And I hear Blue
Eric,
Sky is popping.
Yeah.
Blue Sky.
Yeah. Blue Sky is, I'm on the other one, and I dropped off the other one and then added it back on with a fresh account, and I'm ready to drop the other one and stick with Blue Sky. I just so much. Eric, you've got audio yet, or?
Nope.
I will tell you where you can find Eric. Generally, you can find Eric here Monday nights at 9:00 on Vision Profiles, and we stream live. You can also find him on MacVoices on Tuesdays. He joins us. Brian, how can people find you or get in touch with you, and can they find you?
Sure. Most often find me on a regular basis, joining Chuck on MacVoices on Tuesdays. I'm also very excited to announce another place you can find me. I spun up my own website. So Brian8944.com.
Oh, okay. Great.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you.
David?
Yes, you can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. You do find me on Mac Voices Live on Tuesday nights. I'm on the Mac Show on Fridays on the British Tech Network as well. Occasionally you find me here on Vision Profiles. And then I'm on Blue Sky and Mastodon, both at Dave G65.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. Chuck?
Find everything I'm doing at macvoices.com. And has been alluded to here a couple times. We do a live show Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, over on youtube.com/MacVoicesTV with pretty much everybody here except Daniel. And so, Daniel, maybe we got to get you over there too. I'm sure you have nothing else to do on Tuesday nights. And on pretty much all the socials, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner. Eric and Marty, I think Eric has had to go, but thank you so much for having us and for doing this little crossover thing we did tonight because of New Year's Eve tomorrow night. This has been a lot of fun.
And we occasionally push out a Vision Focus, where it's a conversation piece that Chuck does with Eric and myself, and just about aspects of the VR, AR world, and particularly Vision Pro, and how people can use it in different capacities. So thanks for that relationship, Chuck. I'm Marty Gensius. You can find me Gensius at mastodon.social. You can also find me Monday nights here with Vision Profiles. We are going to be off next week. Sorry, Daniel. We're going to be off next week. I've got to say this really quietly and close to the mic. We're throwing a surprise birthday party for my wife, and she doesn't know it yet. She never listens to this, so it doesn't matter. And a bunch of people are coming in for out of town for a couple of days. So, anyways, we'll be off. We'll be dark next week for that reason. Just too much going on, and we'll be back the following Monday at 9:00. So yeah, you can find me there at Vision Profiles. You can find me with Chuck on Tuesday, with David on Thursday, and a couple of other podcasts that I'm running that I'm doing through the podtalk.net, which is a website that I have I have my podcast connected through that. So thank you for tuning in, and we'd love to hear from our listeners. If you have ideas or want to join in an episode, We'll have you on as a guest. Email us at visionprofilespodcast@gmail.com. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. Learn more about us and Vision Profiles Podcast at our website, thepodtalk.net. Spread the word to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.